And now I'd like to introduce Franklin Baker, President and CEO of United Way of Central Maryland.
Hello and welcome everyone to the fourth session of Realities of Inequity. This series brings together passionate leaders from our community who are committed to changing the status quo. We explore the barriers that prevent people from reaching their potential, that deny them their right to a healthy, stable life, that ban them from the very basics of life security, a safe and secure home, food on the table, a job that pays the bills. Every 2 years, a group of United Ways in our state issues a very comprehensive report that reveals exactly why so many Marylanders can't get ahead. It's called the ALICE Report. Let me begin by defining ALICE for you. ALICE stands for those who are asset limited, incomes constrained, and employed. Those who are working but can't make ends meet. These are people working 1, 2, sometimes more jobs, typically those that are low paying, like cashiers and clerks, healthcare aides, grocery store workers, delivery service and warehouse employees, and the like. The pandemic has exposed long-standing obstacles to the success of this population, a population that really is our essential workers. Think about it. COVID has shown us that these people are in fact essential to maintaining our infrastructures and the operations that allow us to navigate our lives with ease, but they can't afford the essentials like housing, food, healthcare, childcare, and transportation, or the technology today's world absolutely demands. Why is this the case? Because the cost of living far outpaces what they earn. For example, a family of 4 needs to earn $77,000 a year just to make ends meet in Baltimore County. Now, this is unsettling news from the report, which is based on 2018 data. A staggering 39% of Maryland households couldn't make ends meet. That's 2 of every 5 households in the state. And that number is without a doubt higher now with the impact of COVID-19 on people's lives. So I'd like to offer a sincere thanks to Kaiser Permanente, our very generous corporate partner in the Maryland ALICE Report, and all other partners for their support. It's important to know that this isn't just a report that we commission and put on the shelf. We use this report every day to show where the needs are, to guide our decision-making, and to help improve the well-being of our neighbors and neighborhoods. And we share it freely with anyone, including nonprofits and other organizations, to aid them in their work and to help increase their understanding of the challenges ALICE households face every single day, but especially during this health crisis. The ALICE Report helps us all better understand the obstacles they face, and most importantly, why. Today's topic is tech equity. People without access to the internet are at a significant disadvantage, so much so that the United Nations actively advocates equal access to the internet for all people. And in this country, only about half of households with income below $30,000 have access, compared to 81% of those earning $30,000 and 100,000, and 94% of those earning more than 100,000. Think about low-income households. For them, internet access and computers are a luxury they simply cannot afford. Not when they're already trying just to keep a roof over their heads or feed their families or fighting to keep up with their bills. Then throw in COVID. For all the challenges the pandemic has thrown into our lives, all the uncertainty and stress and unknowns, to me, there is a silver lining. It's a double-edged sword of a silver lining, but it's there. It's the fact that it's exposed a lot of inequity that we always knew existed, right? And more people are stepping up to do something about it. And in the face of all the uncertainty and stress and unknowns, we've been suddenly confronted with the weak and vulnerable aspects of our society. And a spotlight has been cast on a multitude of inequities that have existed for centuries. Injustices and imbalances that are so deep rooted and part of our culture that many had stopped talking about them, stopped fighting for them, and simply accepted them. United Way does not accept these inequities. We have never done that. For 95 years, we've worked day and night to take on the toughest problems faced by our neighbors and the neighborhoods they call home. And I believe when we have information, when we have the facts, when we are armed and more aware of what's going on around us, that's when we're fully prepared to act, to make a difference, to make the change we must see. At United Way, we're united for equity. We're united for health. We're united for Alice. And now we're going to hear more from two dynamic local leaders about the digital divide that existed for a long time here in Greater Baltimore, and that's now compounded by the pandemic. I'd like to introduce you to Natalie Dixon, Vice President of Education and Senior Program Officer for United Way of Central Maryland, who will moderate today's session. Thank you so much. Natalie?
Thank you, Franklin. In these sessions, we've explored our region's high cost of living, the housing crisis, and the lack of affordable childcare. I would argue everything we've talked about leading up to today, and likely we'll cover after today, could be tied up neatly with a bow under the overarching issue of the digital divide. Think about it. You're here with us today thanks to technology. You are connected, you can see and hear me. When we're in Zoom calls, we can see each other, and there is a sense of connection and togetherness. The pandemic has showed me that we are truly lucky. If we're not feeling well, we can call our doctor, and there's a good chance we'll be scheduled quickly for a telehealth visit. If we're feeling overwhelmed by everything that's going on around us, if we're struggling with anxiety, depression, or other mental health challenges, we can still get support from a trained professional because we are connected. If you're a stay-at-home dad or mom or retiree, maybe you've been able to steal some relative silence from the inner workings of your household for an hour to be with us today. For those who are at work, either at your office or possibly a makeshift one from a spare bedroom or basement, you probably only needed to walk through a few rooms to get to your computer this morning and start your day. Or maybe you are driving into your office every day. The majority of us do not rely on public transportation and aren't affected when schedules are changed or bus routes are completely eliminated. For those of us who are working, most of us feel safe in our job regardless of where it is because our employers have taken precautions to keep us safe. Few of us are on the front lines. We're not putting ourselves and our families at risk every day, working in low-wage jobs that make us vulnerable and expose us to the virus. The communities where we live have connectivity. Though challenging, our kids can still do school. We can still do our work, run our households, and enjoy retirement. Things may not look like they used to. I know we are all struggling in one way or another, but by and large, we are managing. We can buy things we need or want in the middle of the night with a touch of a key. Our homes and the businesses we frequent make it possible for us to manage our lives because most of us live in communities that have embraced technology and offer the amenities that make so many tasks in life easy for us. But we all know this isn't the case in all communities. So many people in our area are disconnected in so many different ways. I'd like to share something with you that shows what this disconnection means to those who are already struggling. We recently asked a United Way case manager to talk about how technology is so crucial to those he works with in our Veterans Treatment Court program, which helps veterans who are having trouble readjusting to civilian life.
Hello, my name is Miles Logan. I'm a case manager at the Baltimore City Veterans Treatment Court. Um, so my main purpose of the court is to basically just help people navigate through the program, assist them with access to certain resources, basically be a source of support for them. So my main goal here today is just to talk about how the COVID-19 pandemic has presented certain challenges for a lot of my participants, specifically in regards to technology. So, of course, like staying connected is really important for people that are struggling with substance use disorder and trying to get through recovery, are also like dealing with certain mental health issues, and really they just need someone to connect them to the right person so they can get like medication or get therapy. So there's a lot of challenges that COVID-19 presented where people wouldn't be able to go to places in person to access certain resources. So one of the things that we did to try to help people navigate through this was using our client assistance fund to help pay people's cell phone bills and also to acquire laptops for certain participants. We also made sure to conduct virtual dockets to make sure that we could stay connected, make sure the client's connected to the entire team and has that source of support there for them. We also employed like a discounted internet rate that helped out a few clients that really needed access to the internet. So that was definitely a challenge itself. This is really important for people that are in recovery. Not being connected or not having support, it can lead to relapse. It can it could cost someone their life really. So we wanted to make sure that we were that everyone knew that we were there for them. And although there's a narrative that a lot of veterans experience a lot of difficulty when they get out, I would like to say that a lot of my clients are very resilient, and although I don't want to minimize those challenges, I think just having someone there to be a source of support can go a really long way. Thank you for your time.
As Miles just shared, technology can not only improve lives, it can save lives. The men and women he works with are lucky. United Way is there to help. But the ability to access the technology that is essential to our lives is out of reach for thousands and thousands of people across Greater Baltimore who are already struggling just to pay for the essentials. Those whose family budget has been slashed because of unequitable pay, lost jobs, or reduced hours, or those grappling with serious health issues. For them, even the most basic of access plans are unaffordable. And computers, they're expensive. Some families are completely disconnected from school, from work opportunities, from news and information, and from critical services and resources that could help. Some have found ways to try to get by, maybe 3 kids and a single parent all trying to manage on a limited data plan, fighting over who gets to use the one laptop in the house. We're asking far too much of those who are already struggling, and things need to change. They just have to. I'd like to introduce now our panelists, 2 bold, energetic, and committed local leaders who are driving the change we need to see and reimagining what tech equity looks like here in Baltimore. Please meet Chrissie Powell, the Executive Director of Byte Back Baltimore and co-founder of the Baltimore Digital Equity Coalition, and Jonathan Moore, founder and CEO of Rowdy Orbit. Chrissie and Jonathan, welcome to you both. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Natalie, for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Natalie. Greatly
Thank you,
appreciate it.
guys. It's just great. I have a question to sort of start you both off. And Chrissie, we'll start with you. As someone who's deeply immersed in the digital space, what are some new and different ways you've been using tech since the pandemic hit?
Whew. So, I mean, definitely for me, I think we can all probably relate that Zoom has taken over my life. You know, before, prior to COVID, it was usually in-person meetings, whether it's going to each other's office or meeting at a coffee shop. And with driving, in the city, you might get 3 meetings in on a good day, right? Now I feel like it's back to back to back to back because we don't have that in between drive. So
Right.
naturally, we all schedule meetings literally within 5 minutes after ending one. So I think Zoom has really, for me, has changed the way business is done, and it's not a negative in necessarily. It is positive in the way that we can all connect so easily, that we can truly have extra time to do the initiatives and the projects around
Right.
digital equity. So it does provide more time for that, more time for connecting and networking with others in the digital equity space so that we can collaborate. But it is definitely, I'm sure as you all know, very taxing and can be exhausting, even though we're just sitting in our seats.
Exactly.
I'm sure, Jonathan, you can relate.
Absolutely. From someone who suffers from severe depression, I've had to adapt to using technology for connection, and to helping me get through those dark moments. And so, even though I've been involved with tech for over a decade, COVID has completely switched. And now I've had to use video technology from professional standpoint of view to really communicate with the team, communicate with therapists, communicate with support groups to really help me become a lot more efficient, but to make sure that when we're even locked down, make sure these walls don't close in on me that much
Right.
more.
Yeah.
But also, technology at times has offered me a way to break away from society, because there are times that when you can put your device down and walk away and just go for a walk, it becomes reflective. So at times it becomes self-therapeutic, it becomes efficient, but also it becomes a way for me to connect with friends and family and loved ones, just to say hello or just
Yeah.
share a joke and just share thoughts on Lovecraft Country.
I agree with you both. Thank you. Now, Jonathan, you've said that broadband infrastructure is an inclusive human right. Tell us about the importance of digital access for all and what you see in terms of the need in our area.
The need is phenomenal. It's even more phenomenal now. It's at
Yeah.
one point you would be able to go outside and have conversations with your neighbors, and now with COVID, and now with the flu on top of it, and things being shut down, that social cohesion aspect is completely removed. And if you don't have access, you're in deeper isolation.
Right.
And so that normalcy that you're used to having conversation and feeling connected with people have been completely removed. Maybe you need those things as a way of coping mechanism to get you through your day. But if you don't have access, what does your day look like? And so the American Public Health Association labeled the internet access as a social terms of health in these areas when it comes down to healthcare, economic stability, education, and social cohesion. Chrissy, I know you got some thoughts behind this one.
Whew, yes, I mean, it really impacted, the city, especially, all the organizations around workforce development, adult learning, which is my arena, if you will. It's about 35% of our adult learners don't have internet
Wow.
connection in their home, which has totally created some more barriers, for them to continue, getting their training and to get into the workforce. So, I mean, we know that gosh, 96,000 homes. Able just put out a report recently that said 96,000 homes approximately in the city do not have connectivity in their homes. So it's just absolutely unacceptable. And as Jonathan said, it's an absolute human right to be just to be a functioning member of society, to have internet connection.
Yeah, if I can add just one more thing, and one thing we also need to think about in internet connectivity is the homeless population and individuals that are squatting in community that aren't labeled residents but are residents. And now that the libraries are closed and all these public places are closed, their connectivity has gone to zero. And so the disparities for them has grown grown surmountably, completely locking them out in this new digital society.
That's a good point. Thank you both. Chrissy, when we talk about digital equity, I think, what comes to mind for most people first is connecting to computers and the internet. And, as Jonathan mentioned, the need here is really great. When schools were closed, we heard a lot about students needing computers and internet for online classes. But something that often gets overlooked is the fact that the internet is a lifeline for adults, right? In terms of looking for and applying for jobs and training and to get services and resources that they need. What about the people who don't have a lot of or any experience with computers? Share with us what that looks like.
Yes. So as you know, it's really a holistic, and what we have to do is take a holistic approach to bridging and closing the digital divide. Jonathan mentioned internet connectivity and the need for that. Of course, the need for devices. About 75,000 homes in the city don't have a device in their home, and let's think of it this way: once somebody gets connected, then they need a device. Once they get a device, we have to ensure that they have the skills necessary, the skills needed to be able to utilize that device and to be able to go online. So I think for a long time we really take it for granted that maybe thinking that everybody knows how to use the computer, or especially for our baby boomers, who struggle, our grandparents and some parents, and some of ourselves that struggle, with basic digital literacy skills. So when we're talking digital literacy, we are talking, it could be using a mouse, it could be turning on a computer, it could be sending emails or highlighting text. So when we're talking basic digital literacy skills, it's super important, especially when we're talking about workers in the workforce. We know that nearly a third of US workers lack digital literacy skills, so limited to zero digital literacy skills for US workers, which is absolutely, it's just not acceptable. We think sometimes that digital skills are only required in jobs like admin positions or higher level executive positions, or working in a nonprofit or hospital, but it's not the case. Franklin mentioned earlier, our retail workers, our grocery, frontliners, they are literally using computers every day. They're using computers as far as checking apps to check pricing for customers, to do returns in retail. Grocery workers are using online training to stay up to date for their onboarding when they get hired. Everything is done online. So even fast food, they're using VR, virtual reality, for onboarding and for training. So even for our frontline entry level jobs, digital skills is a must. And as you see here, half of Black workers lack digital skills, which is just, it's really hard to hear that. But I mean,
Yeah.
of course, Baltimore City, we're talking, our Black and brown communities are definitely hit the most. Jonathan, I'm sure, you have definitely some words to add around digital literacy skills and the great need.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you start to look at individuals that have been incarcerated for a certain amount of time, and when they come home, their world that they used to know is completely different. And I remember when we trained people with criminal backgrounds, people barely knew how to turn on a computer. And when you start talking about Gmail, which we all know and we're very proficient,
Right.
that's a foreign entity, and you start talking about a foreign language. And so there's organizations like what Chrissie's doing with Byte that you need to teach people the basics and to be able to take them from the basics to where they are now. Just imagine if, like, I'm diabetic and if I go blind, how does that play in? That's a new
Right.
reality that I have to face. And I need
Exactly.
an organization that's going to help me function and cope and live in this new reality that's completely foreign to me. It's not like an old dog can't learn new tricks. It's I want to be able to participate in this new economy and not be left out.
That's right. That's right. And just to piggyback on that, and so often workforce is very important, and the need for digital skills is required for workforce. But I think a lot of us now with COVID, one of the silver linings, it's hard to find a silver lining, but one of the silver linings that has come out of this is the spotlight shed on digital inequities and the need for digital literacy skills. And now we see that it's not just for workforce. Our adults, kids, everybody needs these basic skills to do telehealth appointments, to stay healthy, to do their therapy and mental health appointments online, to apply for benefits online. I mean, to pay bills online,
Yeah.
to stay socially, to ensure that you're not socially isolated. I mean, it's truly, I think, shifted that yes, workforce development and getting into jobs is important, but there's a huge gap just around basic digital literacy skills that I think that our community is finally realizing and acknowledging.
Yeah. Also add you need it to order medical supplies in order to be delivered.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. I agree with you both completely. The need is certainly great. Jonathan, Rowdy Orbit is adopting new approaches to tackling this challenge. And I like how you describe your work as breaking away from the traditional labels of what was to creative independence and inspired possibilities. Tell us how you activate this vision in your work to bring digital access to people.
Well, first it started with we trained people with criminal backgrounds to learn code. And one thing that we noticed is that when they went home, they couldn't do the homework because they didn't have internet access and or they were borrowing someone else's password. And if they didn't pay their bill, they were pretty much locked out. And so they were always at least 2 or 3 steps behind for people that weren't connected. And we said, well, if we can manufacture opportunities, how do we get into infrastructure? And living in communities and working communities where we serve, it's the perfect opportunity to train people where they live to maintain Wi-Fi infrastructure versus broadband infrastructure. And so we pivoted the company to focus on if we were to train people and build local, hyper local work on cooperatives and focus on local workforce development and economic opportunities, what would that look like? And so we went on this journey to look at how do we remove one transportation as a barrier because you have to take 2 buses, you're going to be late.
Right.
And it's not by your choice alone. So we said if we build a work-on cooperative that serves 15 to 20,000, 25,000 people in one area, now we can train people over a 5 to 7 year time span to become the Wi-Fi experts. And so now you work where you live, you take basically 1 bus, if that, or you can walk, and now we can increase the economic footprint by 1 or 2 footprint. But also now the local subject matter expertise are the people you see every day. These are the people that you see at the grocery store, the corner store, the bus stop,
Right.
walking past. And now you can have a conversation with them and you can have a conversation with them in your own language. So we followed this model that's being instituted on a national level that was being developed by University of Colorado Media Labs. Is called Exit to Community. And so as a for-profit company and focus on social impact and social economies, instead of exiting into a large corporate structure, how do you exit to the community? So that way you leave the asset in the community where it belongs. And so over 5 to 7 year time span, that's what we're focused on. And it's training them and putting up the nodes, the infrastructure in place. How do you talk to people, feedback loops, but also how do you collaboratively work together and make the democratic decisions because you're all going to split the assets and the profits together.
I love this idea. At United Way, we know what it takes. We know that it takes many people and organizations working together to tackle longstanding problems, and that change doesn't happen overnight. We recently received a generous donation of $100,000 from Stanley Black & Decker, which we greatly appreciate. Thank you, Stanley Black & Decker, to help close the digital divide in our region. This gift will make it possible for United Way to expand its support of the Brooklyn Curtis Bay community in South Baltimore. Our work there includes one of our neighborhood zones based at Benjamin Franklin High School. This neighborhood zone is a vital resource hub and offers so many supportive resources and services for students, their families, and neighborhood residents. It was co-created by residents, local leaders, businesses, and other nonprofit organizations. And measurable and lasting change it has created in the community has received national acclaim. The Stanley Black & Decker donation will be used to expand internet access for residents in this community, which has historically been geographically and systemically isolated from the rest of the city. Jonathan, your company will be taking the lead on this. I know you've been working a lot with my colleagues, and we're just so excited to be working with such a forward-thinking partner. Tell us about Rowdy Orbit's role, how you got involved with United Way, and the importance of partnerships and collaboration with organizations like United Way and the Baltimore Digital Equity Coalition and others.
Yes, Alex from Elevate Baltimore actually made the introduction to United Way, which was incredible. And then from there, we've been working closely with Heather Chapman and a few other individuals to really start to look at, well, what does the community look like, and how does the community move, and what are the needs of the community? And so we came across, well, to start, well, we can service up to 300 people and put up six free Wi-Fi hotspots throughout the community, which service up to 2,500 unique, well, monthly users, and really figure out a pathway of how do we tackle the biggest disparities in Brooklyn and Curtis Bay first, and then start to build out from there. Because we wanted to, instead of just going to the places where it's the easy part, let's go tackle the disparity, because we're both focused on the disparity. And we've been working with BDEC, Baltimore Digital Equity Coalition, to really be a part of the team to figure out what does the long-term planning looks like as far as connectivity, as far as penetration to households. So that way it's done in an ethical way where we consider all of Baltimore, just rather than just some of Baltimore that are in the whiteout.
It's great. This is going to be so huge for the community in Brooklyn Curtis Bay. We're so excited. Now, let's pivot here from access to hands-on use of technology. And I'd like to play something for you all. United Way's 211 helpline has partnered with Byte to provide tech support for Baltimore City residents who are in adult education or workforce development programs. This is a call from an adult student who couldn't get online to do his class assignment. The sound is a little bit faint, so you might want to turn up your volume a little bit.
I'm calling from Adult Learning Center. They gave me this number to call to find out how to get into the computer, how to get into the laptop, my schoolwork. Yes.
Okay. Are you currently locked out? Did you already type in your password to get into the computer itself?
No, I'm trying to get back into class, but it's not showing up back up here on the screen every time I'm trying to go into it. This other stuff keep popping up on there.
Okay. Can you just tell me what's on your screen so that I can probably better assist you that way and kind of navigate you back to the class?
So those of you who know me know that I struggle with tech issues almost daily. Actually almost hourly. I think I had one 40 minutes ago. And I'm sure many of you can relate to this as well. So Chrissie, internet access is one piece of the tech equity puzzle and an important piece, but the ability to navigate a computer and the internet are basically requirements for almost every job now and in everyday life, as you said. Tell us a little bit about what Byte is doing to improve computer literacy.
Yes, yes. So for the regarding the tech support hotline, I just want to really, focus on that call really quickly. It really just goes to show the foundational need around
Right.
digital literacy skills and tech support. So, me being, of course, here in Byte Back Baltimore, leading Byte Back Baltimore, I also have the honor of serving as the lead of the digital skills team on the Baltimore Digital Equity Coalition. Within that team, for BDEC, as we call the Equity Coalition, we launched in partnership with United Way the Tech Support Hotline, which supports adult learners that are enrolled in workforce development and adult education programs. So the call that you heard was an adult learner from Strong Cities Adult Learning Center. This gentleman is enrolled in an adult basic education program, and he was able to pick up a phone. The goal of the tech support hotline was for adults to be able to pick up the phone, not go online, but dial a phone number and speak to somebody live, speak to a help desk support technician live to help
Exactly.
with troubleshoot issues. You'll hear that the technician, the young lady you hear, is actually a tech intern from one of our workforce tech training programs. We have tech interns from Byte Back, from our certification programs, from Empower, as well as Pass It On. So it's truly community supporting community around tech support. As far as Byte Back, you mentioned is concerned, we really focus on digital literacy skills into certification using tech. So we are one of the few organizations in the country, and really the only one in Baltimore, that starts adult learners at the very foundational level. Teach them how to turn on a computer, how to use a mouse, how to set up an email address, how to attach a file to an email. And then they advance into other classes, learning the basics of Microsoft Office, Excel, PowerPoint, Word, Outlook, Zoom, Google Docs. And then they can pick a pathway using tech, administrative pathway where they get Microsoft Office Specialist certifications in Excel and Word. And also our tech certifications where they get CompTIA IT Fundamentals and A+ certified to go into jobs like your help desk support technician. So it's truly a pathway into careers using tech. And as I mentioned, workforce is so important and needed to get into living wage careers, especially Baltimore becoming the tech hub that it is. But those digital literacy skills that we are finding in Baltimore is really where 80% of the adults that are referred to us have to start at computer foundations.
Wow. I think it's great that you guys are starting there, and then you can layer, on top of that, everything else. But if you don't have that foundation, you're really, I'm speaking for myself, you're really in trouble. So Jonathan, let's talk about Digital Access 2.0. Getting people the digital skills they need, which Chrissie has shown us can greatly improve somebody's life circumstances. How can connectivity be used for even greater good?
Well, look at it when you're putting in a foundation, which is the infrastructure, you can always build out. And
Right.
like Chrissie was saying earlier, when you're building up, in order to maintain or to acquire that knowledge base and to supplement the knowledge base, there's certifications. And so I'll just make it real for what we're doing in Cherry Hill. So, I mean, not in Cherry Hill, but in Brooklyn and Curtis Bay, as well as Cherry
Right.
Hill. So what we're doing is wherever there's a free Wi-Fi hotspot, we're putting up an air quality sensor. Now, by putting up an air quality sensor, we said now the data that we acquire, this becomes community intellectual property. Not only is it a way to drive revenue, but it's a way to tap into the skill set of individuals that care about environmental justice and environmental health. By giving individuals this type of information, not only can they advocate, but what type of community health benefits are going to come from that? So when you build a product on top of infrastructure, it has a 2 to 3x multiplier that can go into other areas. And so in order to get people there, you can train people to become data and community scientists. Now the information becomes so hyper localized that the knowledge base stays within the community. So not only does the IP stay in the community,
Right.
not only does the advocacy, but the solution comes from the community up. And so it's a perfect opportunity we know that cities and state infrastructure is stretched. In this realm, It's the perfect opportunity for the city and state to partner with local residents to come up with a plausible solution. So that way we can start to combine resources. Everyone doesn't have to do everything. It needs to be a collaborative joint effort. And so when Chrissy's talking about the digital literacy aspect and Chrissy's talking about certification, this applies directly to that because now you can learn how to do civic IoT. You can learn how to build off of a Wi-Fi infrastructure without incurring the cost of going to college, but
Right.
being inspired to deepen your education to eventually go into college where you can go to BCCC for free.
Just another pathway, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love this concept of, building up the community in this way, and super excited to bring it to Brooklyn Curtis Bay. Chrissy, it's clear that Bite Back is also improving lives, for those that you serve. Could you share a story about one of your students and what the program meant to them?
Yes, wow. There's so many amazing stories. I mean, I could definitely touch on a few. Samaria being a single mom in Baltimore City who, really just said, I want to not only get a job in tech, but I want to diversify, the tech industry. I want to be one of the few Black women in the tech industry
Right.
and out of Baltimore. So, when she found Byte Back and said, there's no way there's a free training program to get these certifications. And she was just doing amazing and moving through our pathway. But I definitely have to mention a gentleman, Henry, who was referred to us by one of our community partners, Turnaround Tuesdays, who work with returning citizens and really supporting them in transitioning, back to everyday life and back to the workforce. And this gentleman is just phenomenal. He came in and had to start at Computer Foundations and work through Computer Foundations into our CompTIA IT fundamentals training. There were so many struggles there because so many things going on personally around confidence, and doubt that the community is going to support him. And doubt that the employers will see his talent and support him in placing him and getting a job in tech.
Right.
It really took, our team to continuously engage. So it's not just about being in the classroom, it's about engaging and motivating and reaching out. And when Henry said, you know what, I can't do this. Nobody's going to hire me. There's no point in continuing this. My awesome team in Baltimore was able to reach and say, Henry, yes, you can. Stick with it. We are going to get you hired in tech. So, at one point he went MIA and he came back and was like, you know what? I'm ready. He just a couple of weeks ago got his CompTIA IT Fundamentals certification, which was awesome. And he's actually serving as a technician on the hotline, which is really cool. So we are going to get him replaced. He starts the A+ certification in January, so we are just elated that we can be a resource and a support for all of city residents, specifically our Black and Brown communities that are underrepresented and underserved. And Jonathan and what Rowdy Orbit is doing really gives even our students the opportunity to stay within their community and contribute and give back to our community and really just pay it forward.
Exactly. That's awesome. So what needs to happen so that more people like Henry can get, the computer skills that they need to be able to compete in today's job market?
It truly, truly, truly takes community. I know, Jonathan, you mentioned, collaboration, that collective impact model is kind of what we call it. The collective impact model is organizations coming together and partnering and really creating pathways out, just not within our own organizations, but working with each other so that once, say, a Byte back student gets a certification, I can call up Jonathan, and say, hey, I have this great tech savvy, man or woman, and Jonathan's like, okay, great, send him on over. So truly about relationship building and the community, the funders, we need their support. We need corporate and business support. We in the city, government, we need everybody on board. I'm sure, Jonathan, we talk about this all the time.
Yeah,
Jump in, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think that the way that we invest in the white owl, we need to invest in the black butterfly. And we need to invest in the black butterfly, not just in infrastructure, but in human capital. And in order to do that, at times we need to unlearn what we've learned to get past the cultural biases and the differences that's been dividing the city. And I think that's vitally important. So I would challenge people that are on this call or on the Zoom to really think about that and challenge themselves, not from a DEI, digital equity and inclusion standpoint of view, but from a human capital, because the one common denominator that you have here in Baltimore City is that you have a lot of grit, you have a lot of perseverance, and people smile through devastation and through poverty. And that is an asset that you cannot teach, but that's an asset that can be cultivated and nurtured. What Chrissie and I do, we develop a pipeline. At some point, we stop. And at another point, we need other corporations and companies and organizations to be able to take these individuals that have been trained, that have years of experience beneath their belt, that are incredible people, that have shown their way, but would love another opportunity. And so we should not look at what we do as the stop. We should look at it as a start of a continuance of a career path or a journey.
Exactly. And what a great opportunity for the community, right? To be able to work with someone who's from their community, who knows them better than anyone else. I remember you told me a story about a gentleman, you were on one of your jobs and you guys were walking around the community and you just sort of took a step back and he just went, right? I think you referred to him as the mayor. Like he just knew everyone and everyone could relate to him and felt comfortable, because this is new stuff for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was theoretical to that moment. And it was, we walking down with Timothy and we just finished building out a church, putting up some notes on a church. And he said he had been there for generations and he was born and raised in Cherry Hill. And we're walking down the street and there's 5 of us. And everyone he knew, it was literally like walking down the street with the mayor. It was like every 5 steps, hey, Timothy. And he's explaining what he's doing. And so I took the team and I said, let's take a couple steps back and let's follow behind Timothy, because this is his neighborhood. And so that gave me the further conviction that we need to make sure this is as localized as possible, because those are conversations that are in between that make the biggest difference in the world.
Exactly. I totally agree. It's great. So both of your companies are leveling the digital playing field and driving tech equity for everyone, regardless of where they live and what they do. Tell us what impresses you most about each other's work. And Chrissie, we'll start with you.
True. Well, Jonathan and I met some years ago, some years ago, when I was with Goodwill at the Chesapeake. Mm-hmm. And Jonathan was moving with Roddy Orbit and training, community members in tech and getting them employed. And I was we met at a networking event. And I was told, you have to meet Jonathan Moore. I'm like, okay. So they brought me over and introduced me to Jonathan. And instantly, just the passion for a community, the passion for togetherness, the passion for empowerment of our community and the people in our community. Jonathan is the epitome of passion and commitment to community. And, not everybody agrees with everything, but Jonathan is direct and he is absolute. And, with his work with Rowdy Orbit, it has just been, a game changer, especially, post COVID, or as we're still working within this whole COVID thing. It's truly creating, for many years, Jonathan has said, Chrissie, it's all about building, businesses that we can hand over to the community so that they can operate, as he mentioned earlier.
Right.
I had never heard anybody else speak to a business operation or speak about a business operation that way. And it makes sense and it's needed. And that's the only way that our community is going to be able to sustain itself and build. So, I mean, there's so many great things I can say about Jonathan and Rowdy. He has truly been a mentor to me, even in my transition into Byte Back and in my continuous journey within the digital equity space.
So I'm a huge fan of Chrissie. I am a huge fan of Chrissie. We've met at the networking event and we've just managed to stay in touch. And she has an undeniable passion for the next. And by her training people is just absolutely amazing. And it fits directly into a wheelhouse who she is, an individual and the person. And like when we sit down and we have lunch, I'm like, you're going to change how your boys look at women. You have a direct impact. And the people that come into your sphere, there's a goodness. There's an honest, purity goodness about Chrissie. It's weird talking about you when you're right there, but it is such a purity, and it's almost it's not almost, it's such a joy and a breath of air when I listen to Chrissie talk. And I find myself being an audience member into a personal play where I'm witnessing her conviction. And I always tell her, I said, at some point, you're going to become a CEO. You've got to become a CEO because you inspire so many people. You just do. It's the way you operate, the way you speak to people, the way that your manners to people, the way that you approach people. You care and you give a damn. And there's no quantifiable or qualifiable metric behind that. And people either have it in their heart, but she has it in her soul.
What a beautiful.
Thank you. Good.
Yeah. Beautiful confirmation of both of you, Chrissie and Jonathan. We really appreciate you both joining us today and sharing. I know we only got to a little bit about the great work that you're both doing. It's been so illuminating to learn more about how you're putting technology in the hands of those who need it and supporting them, and about the barriers you're breaking and the bridges you're building for tech equity. Thank you for all you're doing and for taking time to be here with us this afternoon. I really appreciate it.
Jonathan,
thank you for having us.
I want to say thank you guys so much. You guys are really blazing a path. We're excited to be partnered with you and your extenders. So welcome to the United Way family, as it were. Thanks for your hard work and your excellence in the community.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, guys. Since United Way began working in this region 95 years ago, the world has changed in ways none of us could have imagined. We've constantly evolved to provide what's needed, where it's needed, and we're quick to identify and respond to new needs like digital access. Today, we're providing computer tablets to families and individuals who need them, partnering with tech companies to help people navigate their computers and the internet, and increasing access in neighborhoods where the inability to get online is just another barrier to getting ahead. And we're doing it with the help of collaborators like Byte Back and Rowdy Orbit, and supporters like Stanley Black & Decker. Today, you've learned about some new and innovative ways that people are bridging the digital divide here in Baltimore. But this divide extends across Central Maryland and beyond. Students and families, adults who want to further their education or learn new skills, people who are looking for a better job or need to know their way around a computer to keep or advance their current job. Those living in rural areas in Carroll and Harford County, there are thousands and thousands of people who need the access and the skills that we might be taking for granted. Think about the people you heard about today, people whose lives got better, and people whose lives were perhaps even saved thanks to today's technology. You can do something right now to help close the gap between those who are connected and those who aren't. We're looking for tech professionals to volunteer to provide IT support to adult learners, and as this program expands, to others like seniors. We need to get more devices into the hands of families who have no computer or households where multiple people compete for time on a single device. A donation to United Way's digital fund means we can provide computers to those in need and increase internet access in underserved areas. And I'm sure a lot of you have old computers, monitors, or printers that are just gathering dust. Unless you're really planning to transfer all your iTunes from 2015 to your current machine sometime soon, why not consider donating your equipment to somebody who could really use it? There are a number of locations in our area that will accept upcycled devices. Links to volunteer, make a contribution, and donate equipment are all on the screen, and we'll include them in our follow-up email message after this event. The journey to digital equity, it's a long one, but as they say, all journeys begin with a single step. So take a step toward tech equity today and join us in our pursuit of equal access for all. As we close out today's session, if you have any questions for Chrissie or Jonathan or me, or if you have ideas you'd like to share or thoughts on how we could partner together, our email addresses are on this slide. And we'll continue to explore the barriers to success for people here in Greater Baltimore in our next Realities of Inequity discussion on December 15th at noon. We'll unpack disparities in mental health care and what professionals in this field are seeing in the wake of COVID-19. Thank you so much for joining us today. Be safe, have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, and know we are grateful for each of you.